a chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from West St. Paul Studios, it's time for MinneZona Sports Live with DJ Matty C and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back with episode 184 episodes. Who would have thunk? But anywho, I'm your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Callahan, a.k.a. Callie, a.k.a. Matty C, etc. And all the way from Granite City Studios in St. Cloud, Minnesota, Paul Volta Shield. What is going on there, Shield?
Boy, a heck of a time for the cold and cough medicine to really start kicking in, because not even a little midweek flu is going to slow down another episode here tonight. So I'm looking forward to it. We got a great show lined up as well. Crazy time of year that we're in right now. The March Madness is already starting to kick in, so let's get right to it tonight.
We're going to get right to it, and here's what we got real quick. We have a special guest. We're going to get to our special guest in a second. But after with our special guest, we're going to be talking a lot of Wolves. It might be many people, so we'll reveal that in a second. Tater Tot Hot Take tonight, we got the news about kirkcochains maybe going to ATL. I mean, do we not want that or what? It sucks, man. But we'll see what happens. I don't know. We'll see. So we'll talk about that, and then after that, we'll go right into ARA. We got a lot to talk about with ARA. There's been a lot of things happening on in the NFL. Erickendricks released by the Chargers. You got Russell Wilson being released. You got Johnnymanziel talking about Reggiebush's Heisman. So many things going on.
So many things.
ARA, Shield shoutouts tonight.
Yes, sir.
So without further ado, we welcome a guest that has been on. I think this is third time, I believe.
Third time.
Gentleman. He is one of my good friends. He is Alex Zappa, Bally Sports North reporter. Welcome to the show, baby.
Oh, wow. I thought after last time you guys would never have me back. So, I mean, this is just a welcome surprise. And I'm just happy to be here. Thank you. I thought that was fun. I thought that was pretty good.
I liked it. Yeah. Zaps. I mean, again, we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, zoners know who you are now. They know that you're working for Bally. You're doing fantastic things at Bally. But Zaps, we got to talk about those Wolves, man. Those Wolves have been on fire, dude. I mean, the last time we had you on, and we talked about this just before the show, I mean, what have they done this year as opposed to last? I mean, who is this team? That's my question. What do you think, Zaps?
I think that's a great place to start, the differences between last year and this year, because I remember being on this show and being like, don't be surprised if this is the number one team in the West, because when you look at this roster and the roster construction, the talent just was there and it existed, and it was a perfect formulation of a go-to scorer, a great Robin to a Batman, and then a couple guys who are really great defensively who don't need the rock too much. And last year, I think a karlanthonytowns still maybe felt propelled to be that dynasty kind of cornerstone person. I think rudygobert came in and wasn't healthy, which has been reported on a lot this year about his lack of health last year. And you also had no Mikeconley to start the season as well. The trade happened, and so Rudy getting healthy, a full offseason with the same group, JadenMcDaniels getting a little bit stronger. It might not look like it, but he did. And then Anthony Edwards just taking the next step. I think the Team USA this summer really taught him a lot, not only about how great he is, but how individuals don't win games, teams do. And that has been the biggest leap I've seen this year, is everyone locking into their roles, understanding what their purpose is on this team, and sticking by it. And when they don't, it's when we lose. But guess what? We haven't lost that many games this year, and it's because the talent has finally merged with the humility amongst this team as far as what are you supposed to do on this team, and these guys being experts at facilitating that on the court.
Yeah, and you see kind of you mentioned Gobert. In my opinion, Zaps, I feel like Rudy Gobert has shown why he can be a force down low. I was watching the game on Monday night, I believe, and the defensive prowess of Rudy Gobert this year has been fantastic. He's probably in line to win the Defensive Player of the Year again. What do you think Gobert has done this past offseason to get to that form that we thought we would see in year one? What do you think?
It's so obvious in one sense. It's an obvious word to say. It's much harder to apply, is confidence. I think when he got here, he was struggling to catch lob passes, and there just was not a good aura. There was not a good vibe around Rudy Gobert, and he has proven himself this year that give me the ball, I'm going to score. And then on the defensive end, just that 10% more healthy when you're in a league full of A-plus athletes, world-renowned athletes, makes a humongous difference. So his ability to leap and get those blocks and his confidence to also be more aggressive, and then the communication as well. A lot of times you saw last year a lot of pick-and-roll coverage, and Rudy was dropping. And the wing defender wasn't doing their job, wasn't staying on the screen. So then he was all of a sudden in no man's land. And so it's a combination of chemistry, camaraderie, and then his ability to, I think, take on this alpha nature that got away from him last year because of his inability to do kind of the simple things. And he's one of the least, there are kids in high school who just quite frankly can dribble a basketball better than Rudy Gobert. There are kids in 8th grade traveling ball who can shoot better than Rudy Gobert.
Sure.
But for this team and this coaching staff to understand that he is exceptionally great at a couple things, and for him to finitely focus on those has made a humongous difference. And so it's really transformed this team as far as letting karlanthonytowns be away from the basket a little bit more and letting Rudy Gobert really man that paint, and then let the other defensive players shine too. I think Jadenmcdaniels and Anthony Edwards specifically taking their leaps on the defensive end have made Rudy look as good, if not better, too.
I think another thing too, I know you probably mentioned this too, Mike Conley. Him and Mike Conley have worked together before, and I feel like with Mike Conley being there, he's able to know how to work with Gobert, and I think that's been a plus too for Gobert. Besides Rudy Gobert, what other Wolves player would you say, Zappa, has impressed you the most?
I love Nickeil Alexander-Walker as a guy who just comes off the bench and is a dog on defense. Just hounds other people. And his catch-and-shoot threes have been amazing. Again, when you're sharing a court with Anthony Edwards, karlanthonytowns, Jadenmcdaniels, who are able to spread the floor, you forget about a guy like Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And he's a former lottery pick. Okay, this is a very talented basketball player that on a Washington Wizards team could be their third leading scorer. Well, guess what? On a number one seed in the West, you're going to be 7th or 8th. But his ability to, again, put his ego to the side and say, listen, I'm focused on defense and making open three-point shots, and I'm not going to be isoing off the corner. I'm not going to be driving and doing contested layups. He only takes layups and catch and shoot threes. That's only in playing incredible defense. And so I would say, and then you cannot look past the consistency of offense that Naz Reid has provided. His three-point efficiency has been incredible. His finishing ability is actually a little bit down this year, but to have a center be able to come in and dribble, drive, and just say, hey, Naz Reid, here's the ball, go score 2 points, and he does it 50% of the time is such a valuable weapon. And someone who also defensively has held his own this year, which is something that early in his career he really had problems with.
Yeah. And, I think, obviously, Naz Reid fan favorite. No fans or buts about it. Every time he's in the game, I feel like they get a lot more energy. They feed off him, and a lot of people said, well, you can't have that many big centers back to you with Cat, with Gobert, with Naz Reid. Well, they're the number 1 seed in the West right now. I think it's working okay, and I think that's a credit to Coach Finch. And I think Finchy, has been fantastic. Go ahead.
No, it's a great point because you talk about the Rudy Gobert defense, and I think that big difference has been when you have a Cat, karlanthonytowns, and Naz Reid guarding on the perimeter, and they're playing close defense. Like, they're not saddled back. They're not giving up the open three. So guess what? I can contest your three-point shot, and then if you drive, I can stay with you until you get to the rack. And then that's when you're open. But guess who we have there? Is Rudy Gobert. So, again, Chris Finch has found a system to make this work. And karlanthonytowns and Naz Reid, they have the ability to close out at the three-point line. They have the ability to at least get there. And so if you can just show, and then you can say, all right, you can blow by me. Okay, you're a 6'2" point guard. You're a 6'7" wing. You're going to be able to beat me off the dribble to the basket. But guess what? I have a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year there waiting for you. That's been a humongous difference as far as getting the other team to play into your strength. That has been Chris Finch to a T. It's why they hired him mid-season, and it's why, he was coaching the All-Star game this year, because he has a way of understanding his roster and putting his players in a position where they have to be successful. They are just going to be.
Yeah, and we are keeping our fingers crossed that it keeps that way, because it's a pretty close race, obviously, that we talk with the Thunder, with the Nuggets, and everything like that. But before we get to that, let's talk about Ant, our guy, Ant,
our guy.
And Voldy, I'll be asking you too. But and then also the zoners. If you have any questions for Alex, throw it in the chats. We'd love to hear from you as well. So obviously Ant's reached, I feel like every year he's reached new heights. And of course he's exceeded even more expectations this year. Zaps, what has he done this season that, has impressed you the most? Or what is he like? What do you think he's improved upon, or what has impressed you? What do you got?
The first thing is the defense. I mean, I would think of the Celtics game when it was Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum against Anthony Edwards and JadenMcDaniels, and we won. And we very deliberately won that game in the final 5 minutes. And of late, closing's been a little bit tougher. They'll figure it out. But his relentlessness and his free throws. I mean, he's finally getting some respect. He still asks for a little bit too many fouls, but everyone does.
True.
But I think leading on both sides of the floor has been a humongous change. And I think, again, going back to Team USA, I think he very much saw that I have to be a complete player. And if I want to be a Michael Jordan, if I want to be a Kobe Bryant, if I want to be a LeBron James, I need to go after chase down blocks. And you're seeing that when he makes mistakes and when he's not having good offense, a lot of times he turns up his defense to get back to his offense. So I think, number one, he's always been competitive. I think finally he's at a point with his body and his stamina where that competitiveness is showing all 36, 38 minutes he's playing in a game. It's not just when he's scoring. It's not just on nights when he wants to. His consistency of effort and tenacity, trying to dominate whoever's across from him, offensively or defensively, is what the greats have done. And I think he studied those greats. I think he wants to be great and understands that on this team, for them to be great, he needs to be the best player on the court, regardless of team, every single night. And the reason we've won over 40 games and we still have about 25 to go is because he's writing that check, and guess what? He's cashing it. He's actually showing us, and that is really, really cool to see. It's very reminiscent, quite frankly, of Kevin Garnett, who whoever was across from him was like, F you, I'm going to beat you every single inch of this court. And Anthony Edwards has very much taken on that perspective. I'm going to dominate you every second of this game.
And KG's been given a lot of praise to Edwards and stuff like that. Shoot, even Stephen A. Smith is saying Vince Carter, reminiscent of Vince Carter, Kobe Bryant, and then Michael Jordan. It was the third one too. So that's just insane to think about. But Voldy, question to you. I mean, what has impressed you the most with Ant this season?
Well, obviously, it comes to another year of seasoning for him at the NBA level, too. And obviously, not having to be, take everything upon his shoulders. That's kind of another thing that it's really not so much just him alone that's really impressed me throughout the whole season. It's all the complementary pieces around him, too.
Yeah.
Sure, he can go out and get out 35 points a night as well. And also, like, Apps was talking about too, the production on the defense as well, that he can, if he's having a bad shooting night or just, calls not going his way, he can be that complementary piece on the defensive side. Whereas guys, other guys that may not be having a good shooting night, I'm just going to, backpedal on defense and, be a traffic cone out there as opposed to an actual defender too. But having all those other pieces come into play with obviously, McDaniels, and then you throw in obviously Cat, Gobert, Naz Reid as well. All those other guys on the floor can be that outlet on the defensive side, with obviously still having him the ability to go out and get points too with Anthony Edwards. Just getting another year under his belt and just, more reps at that level, playing for Team USA, getting that international experience, of course, playing against the best of the best, trying to ramp that up a little bit more to keep that out throughout the whole year and just building more of that longevity that can be throughout a whole year, as opposed from start of the season to end of the season, whatever happens in between happens, and then just continuing to build off of that each year.
I love it. Zaps, we have a question from Zoner.
Okay.
Ask Alex which teams in the West the Wolves should, fear the most. What teams would you say not a great matchup for the Wolves? They might struggle against this team, but which team do you think could make trouble for the Wolves here, Zaps, coming up?
I have always been terrified of the Pelicans, and it's a weird pick, but the Zion, Valanciunas, like BI, they have so much scoring. They have so many just bucket getters that they can match baskets with a lot of players, and they have the physicality to match us on the rebounding side of things, which is where we usually dominate. Denver's the easy answer because when Jokic wants to be, he's maybe the best player of all time. And then you have Michael Porter Jr., who's 6'10" and makes about 40% of his threes. Jamal Murray, who just becomes like an otherworldly player once the playoffs start. Like he's kind of like playoff, like how playoff Rondo is a thing. It's almost like playoff Murray at this point.
Yeah.
And then I don't think you can sleep on the Oklahoma City Thunder because they're just an incredible math team. I mean, they have 3 guys averaging over 16 points a game, and all of them shoot above 50% from the floor. Like, it's absolutely absurd what they're able to do. Now, we played them in the play-in last year, and we beat them. And a lot of that was because of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's cousins with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So we have guys who can kind of defend Shai, but the Thunder, we've played really close this year. We've played the Pelicans terribly this year. Denver, again, we took them to 5 games last year without Naz Reid and Jaden McDaniels. That was a very big deal. And so and I'll tell you what, if we even get the 1 or the 2 seed, you're playing a Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Dallas team. You might be playing a LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Lakers team. Like this West, thank goodness Ja Morant got hurt because the Memphis Grizzlies were the team I was maybe the most scared of once they actually got healthy. So this West is absolutely brutal, but we've held our own and we've played really good. We've dominated bad teams this year, and we've been able to split for the most part against the elite teams. And so it's going to come down to composure at the end of these games. And we have a 23, 24-year-old that we're going to put it in the hands of, and that's pretty scary. And on nights it works, it looks great. And on nights it doesn't, it's brutal. And quite frankly, last year were a lot of those games where it kind of looked brutal. And this year it's been one of those years where it's looked really great. And it's cliche to say, it's true. It's a make or miss league. And that's the blessing, the curse of a Anthony Edwards, of a Kobe Bryant, of a Michael Jordan, is every shot they take in one sense is a good one because they can make every single shot possible. But it's also a curse because then you start taking all these shots. And so we have to put it in Anthony Edwards' hands. And at this point this season, that's been a really great decision. when it gets to playoff times, more scouting reports, and more time spent against other teams, I'll be curious to see how we fare because it's a brutal conference, as you mentioned.
So, another you mentioned. I was going to say the Pelicans too. So I'm glad we're on the same page. I don't know what it is, but I feel like whenever they play, they have a trouble guarding Zion. Like, I don't know why it is. I mean, well, granted, for anyone, he's a big dude, Like, he gets through there, man.
He's a generational player. He's pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
He ain't bad. And obviously there's some, controversies that are happening with him, but he's still damn good. I mean, it's that simple. It's, man, I hope they don't get matched up with the Pelicans because that could be a situation where, I feel like it'll probably go, I mean, it'd be great if the Wolves swept them, but I mean, there's a lot of season left to go, so hopefully, the Wolves will have an answer by then. But Finchy has been a great coach so far, and I think he'll be have him ready to roll. So the last thing I got for you, then you're doing rapid fire again with Shield. So recent news, Zaps. What's your take on Ant missing the tip-off last Monday night? Apparently Ant says that he lost track of time. Do we believe that, or was there something going on? Like, I mean, can you give us any insight? What do you have?
So that's what's brutal. As I was not working this game, I wasn't there. I've heard about this, and I've never heard of this though. Like, I heard that this happened. I've never heard of this situation literally happening. Well, and then he had a terrible game. Like, I think he only had like 12 or 13 points. And Finch But how about this? We still won. And
True.
In the fourth quarter, with only 11 points, he's playing like squat down on the floor, like all hands on deck defense, which is what I love. And again, so an example of we're winning games when our best player, who's averaging 26 and a half a game, scores 13. Because guess what? That's when Rudy Gobert puts up a 20-20 game. That's when Cat kind of takes his spot. And so, I don't know what happened. I mean, he's Anthony Edwards, man. I mean, he's a superstar. Stuff happens. And maybe he's just like, you know what? I don't want to start every game this year, humbly. I want to, I need some – he needed to be humbled maybe a little bit. He wanted to humble himself. We'll say that.
He pulled the semi-pro is what he did. Just shows up, mid-game, throws himself right in, just start getting buckets. Pull the coffee black.
Buckets, man. But I think, I don't know, and this is what people have been saying. I mean, he was just became a dad recently, too. So
yes.
I don't know if there was something going on with that and whatnot. But, again, the thing is obviously I don't think it's going to happen again. And Finchy, obviously, in the press conference was like, well, you have to ask him, and whatnot. So,
yeah.
But, we love Ant here, and obviously, we want to see, because a lot of people are talking, they're like, oh, why is he doing it? Things like that. It's like, well, let's just, he learned his lesson. It's okay. People make mistakes. It's all good. So, with that being said, Shield, hit him with some rapid fire.
All right, we're going to get right to it as well. Of course, we see over your shoulder, Zaps, of course, that collection of awards that's with Valley Sports North and everything. So, with your time at Valley Sports North, who is your favorite personality that you've had to work with Valley Sports?
Like Valley Sports North talent, you're saying?
Yes, of the talent there. Who's your favorite?
I mean, that's like picking your favorite kid to his – well – I just don't want to make anyone
Everybody's
mad.
got a favorite kid.
Marnie, right?
You love them all the same. You can like one the most. That's Rev always. That's a great one. Okay, I love that. I've worked the closest with Marnie. I produced the show she works on. We've been doing it for 4 years now, and she's got to interview like A-Rod, Lori, Craig Kilborn, like Ant, Cat. Like, it's ridiculous the people that she's interviewed on this show, and she's really been a mentor. I mean, there are days where she'll do K-Fan in the morning. For an hour, however long it is, and then she'll show up to Mayo Clinic where we have the studio for Wolves Plus, and she'll do 2 interviews, and then she'll go into the media room and work on the game, and then she's working a 7:00 game that night till like 11. And so you look at someone like her, and it's just the work ethic, it's the discipline, but also the it's just what she does. It's just a job. It's who she is. And so it sometimes doesn't have to be super complicated. It can just be very simple. So no, I would say, yeah, Marnie's pretty dope. She's a cool lady.
Give me your Mount Rushmore of interviewees that you have done. So that's four interviews. Who's on your Mount Rushmore that you've done?
I would say Ant is probably the first on that list. I love Ant.
There's one.
I'll tell you what, I interviewed him last week for this elementary school thing. Towns is actually like really down to earth and like chill. Like we were talking about the Scholastic Book Fair like before like I interviewed him, which is just like awesome. Yeah, it was an event where the Wolves donated books, and he was like, "Well, I remember the Scholastic Book Fair," and I was like, "Dude, that was the best. Like I love the Scholastic Book Fair."
At St. Joe's.
Yes. So he was dope. I got the first interview I ever did for Bally. I interviewed Lynx players, and so I'm going to fill it out with Maya Moore and Sylvia Fowles. I would say I got Maya once, and she was just super cool, and I really couldn't believe it. And then still, I do some sideline reporting for the Lynx, and so I actually got to know her. I interviewed her at a couple events like outside of Lynx, just like kind of her volunteer stuff during her last season, and just one of the most gracious, down to earth. Also just like a freak of nature. Like you see her and you're like, yep, you probably are the best center in WNBA history. Like that makes sense. So yeah, I'm going with 2 Wolves and 2 Lynx because I like a lot of my work comes with basketball. I love the thing I just want to make is they're so like normal and they're so like, guess what? They go to the bathroom, they get hungry, they get annoyed, they get happy, and it's really amazing to get exposed to them and then just see how people talk about these pro athletes sometimes is like ridiculous because they're just people trying to make money for their families and stuff. So it's tough. Yeah.
Right.
That's a good point.
All right. Another one here for you. I don't know if you've had the chance yet or not to talk with Alexrodriguez. A-Rod, have you had that chance yet?
I do. Yeah. He knew my name for like 3 days, which I'm really proud of. I did
kind of easy to remember.
Yeah, well, we have the same name.
Exactly.
I interviewed him at this Second Harvest event that the Timberwolves were at, and I interviewed one of his daughters, and then she was an actor, so we talked about acting, and then they're like, "Oh, it's Alex," and then the next day there was a game, and he passed by me, and he kind of double-taked me, and he was like, "Good to see you, Alex," and I was like, "Okay, I'm set for like a month. Like I'm pretty good. That's decent."
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. Speaking of the Lynx we talked about earlier there just a moment ago, what are 3 things that the Lynx need to do to get back into the title picture for the WNBA?
Trade for Caitlin Clark somehow. That would be a great start. I think that would be amazing. Don't know if that's going to work. I don't think the Fever are going to give – I mean, the Fever are going to be really good. That's with Leah Boston and her, like, holy cow. They've done a little bit of it. They needed a center presence, and they signed Alana Smith, who's a really good player. They got Courtney Williams, who's a point guard who has really good stats and has been around the league and does a lot of things. I mean, the WNBA is really competitive, and they have all these super teams, and we don't quite have that super team persona yet. So we have Fee. Kayla McBride's a great player. I think she's more a side piece than a cornerstone. And so we need to get lucky. And we need Diamond Miller to kind of become something, whether she can be that. I think Diamond Miller's a little bit more JadenMcDaniels than she'll be Anthony Edwards as far as just her role on a team. I think she's more a 3 or a 4 than a 1 or a 2. But we need a big-time free agent to come here. I mean, just plain and simple. It's a smaller league, so the best players, it's much more important where they are and who they are. And so we needed to get a little bit lucky. I was hoping Nafisa Collier would get Brianna Stewart over here, who is a free agent. They have the UConn connection. Yeah. We had the money. It was possible. It didn't happen. So we need a big time player. We're one player away, honestly.
Always one player. Controversial final question here, and it's something that we've talked about on the show here. Yes. Does Draymond Green deserve a ring for jump-starting the Wolves to the top of the Western Conference when the Timberwolves win the NBA championship?
Absolutely not. I will take that ring instead of Draymond Green. No. But I think there's something to that. And I think that's actually a really interesting point to bring up because the tenacity and the alpha nature of this team showing up and saying, hey, we're one of the best teams in this league, we're going to dominate you, and then Draymond Green being like the embodiment of that mentality, and then us alphing Draymond Green to a certain extent is a very big deal. So I hope we beat the Warriors on our way to a championship, and then that can be kind of our saving grace to Draymond Green. That can be our, hey, you were a part of this too. We beat you to get to where we are.
I love it. I love it. That's all I got for rapid fire.
Oh, man. And, you know, just so you know, Zaps, to add on to that, Draymond Green was voted 2023 Clown of the Year on this show. So, props out to him. You know, choking gag.
What is he doing? I just
Yeah, what? Right.
The highlight reel of just nut picks that he has is incomprehensible. I just don't quite get it. Very bizarre.
He punched his own teammate in the face. Like, it's insane to me. Like, how? Oh, my gosh.
Right.
So, but anyway, wanted to throw that out there to you. Okay, one last thing, because we talked about this right before the show, and you have an opinion on this because you covered a lot of sports. Kirkcochains, is he coming back to Minnesota? Obviously, the recent news right now is all signs are pointing to Atlanta. What are your thoughts on this whole Kirko conundrum?
I mean, here's the deal, boys, and I mean this in a very real way. We got to turn over this team. Like, we haven't done it with Kirk. Like, we haven't. And this team is not the team that we had 3 years ago. It's not the team we had 2 years ago. And I think if you look at this team objectively, we have a very good offensive line. We have a great wide receiver group.
Yeah.
And I would argue nothing else. Like, quite literally. Like, our defensive backs are not great. Our safeties are fine. Our defensive line is missing a lot of pieces. Our edge rushers are missing a lot of pieces. Our linebackers are incredibly average. And so let's draft a quarterback. Like, we don't have a running back. We just released Madison. And running back isn't that important, but you'd like to have one, hypothetically. And so I love Penix from Washington. All he's done is win. I love that his knees are banged up because he can drop to us. I think we could even maybe get him at the end of the first, trade him back in, do a little like Lamar Jackson thing, like get to pick number 32. Shield doesn't love it. And I also think McCarthy on Michigan's grown on me a little bit. That feels a little bit busty to me. But guess who else was a Michigan Wolverine? Guy named Tom Brady. Okay, so listen, what are we doing? I love Jaden. Jaden Daniels would be my like godsend pick. I think there's no chance he gets to us at 11, but God, is that guy going to be fun to watch? But I like Penix. I think all he's done is win. He's arguably the most accurate passer in this draft, and last time I checked, like quarterbacks ought to be accurate. So I like him. What do you guys think? I don't want Kirk back though. I really don't. I don't think he's worth the money, and I think we've seen what we're capable of with him. And in a very human way, this will be the worst year he probably will have had in the last few because he literally tore his Achilles last year. And I don't think that's ridiculous to say.
Shield, go ahead.
Well, on the Michael Penix route, we'll start with that first off. Yes, all he done is win, and all he's done is get hurt in the process too, coming off 9 years in the college game as well. I could see that. I do agree. JJ McCarthy is someone that's kind of grown on me in recent weeks and in recent months. Take the whole national championship Michigan thing out of it as well. I kind of like that kind of being a sleeper quarterback too. But yeah, Jaden Daniels would be a godsend as well. See what New England wants to come up with at that 3 spot there. They've had some talks with Jaden. I've heard too recently, me being a closeted New England fan as well. Literally as I'm talking here in my closet right now. But see, the more we talk about Kirk and the likelihood and the possibility of him leaving, the more I come to realize that he may have to, do the old dumpster fire and just sell off the team, sell it off for spare parts. And hopefully that will lead the way, obviously, with the open cap space that the Vikings could use to, obviously sign JJ, but more and more reports coming out does not look good for Kirk to come back. I certainly would like him to come back, at least for one more, but coming off the Achilles, him being at an advanced quarterback age at 107 in quarterback years is not good. But I don't know. Honestly. Could be very well surprised. They could go out and do something completely ridiculous and just sell off the whole team. But me personally, I want Kirk back, but that's just me. So,
well, my thoughts on that, and Zaps, as you know the show. Obviously, I met Kirkochains. Me and Kirko text and talk more than people know.
I've heard that. Yeah,
You've heard, yeah.
a little too much.
A little too much.
Yeah.
But my opinion on it, and we'll talk about this more in Hot Take, but I'm starting to warm up to McCarthy a little bit, because at first I'm like, hell no, stay away, we're not doing that thing. But I want them to get, if they're saying, okay, Kirk's gone, find that quarterback, the bridge quarterback that everyone keeps talking about. Oh, go for Baker, go for Darnold, go for, a guy that's going to, hold it until the rookie's ready to go. Because I feel like if we're going to throw somebody into the fire like that, like a J.J. McCarthy right away, could ruin him. That's. But KOC is a fantastic play caller. He's a fantastic head coach so far. I think he might be able to get them to that point of him being ready, week one. But I don't know. That's a lot to ask. I feel like if that's McCarthy. Penix, I'm warming up to a little bit. His combine was very good.
Good.
He was accurate. He was he showed he can fit it in there and whatnot. He's mobile. Something that the Vikings quarterbacks have never had is a mobile QB. That's what they need, man. And McCarthy.
Hey, don't forget about Tavares T-Jack, Matt. What about T-Jack?
T-Jack. That's true. That's true.
That's
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Sorry.
Yeah. But
Hey, we had Joe Webb, okay? We had Joe Webb. I had to remind people, we had Joe Webb.
The morning of when Ponder was supposed to start that playoff game, and then you got through the news line that I was jacked. And then you saw the game, and you're like,
yeah, no,
not
they're saying it
jacked anymore. This is not great.
Yeah, no, not good
Tough.
at all. So, but I don't know. I just feel like something that, I know you mentioned T-Jack and whatnot, but Kirk obviously is more pocket passer, right? And now you can add, some guys that can actually move around, even though Penix obviously has the injuries that he's had these past, in his injury history. So, I don't know. That's just kind of my thoughts on it, but, we'll see how it goes. Next week's going to tell us everything we need to know. Or even
again, Detroit's going to be great. I think Chicago is in a position to really turn over their team if they can lock in this draft. And the Packers are really scary with Jordan Love. Like, we might just need to kind of suck for a while and reset the deck. That's what is we're in a really tough division all of a sudden. And while I don't want us to be bad, it might be the time for us to kind of, take a pill of we stink and look towards the future instead of trying to maintain this averageness that we've been for a while. It just doesn't work.
I understand. I totally understand. So we'll see how it plays out. We'll be talking, and obviously, there's a lot of questions that will be answered very, very soon. So,
yeah.
Zaps.
Yes.
Another great time, as always, having you on. We love talking about the Wolves, obviously, with this Kirko drama. I wish we had more time. My friend. But, we'll find another time to do that. But we got to get you some Zona merch, my friend. We gotta get you rolling on that. We got new stuff. Got quarter zips. We got sweatpants. There's a whole slew of stuff. So if we'll talk. I will message you if you want some. Cool stuff coming your way.
I'm gonna keep your word on that. I wear my Zone shirt at the gym all the time.
Let's go.
Nice.
Yeah. It's 5 out of 5 out of 5 stars. I haven't heard a bad thing about the Zona shirt, so that's all we care about. Zaps, thank you for your time. We will talk to you soon. Go Wolves, go Lynx, Skol Vikes, the whole deal. We'll talk to you later.
Pleasure, boys. Appreciate it.
All right. All right. Now we will we'll kind of, go right into Tater Tot Hot Take. Obviously,
Yes, sir.
we talked about a lot of the Kirk thing. But we'll talk more about that here, and then we'll get into ARA. Go from there. Thank you to Zappa, one of our, he is such a great guest to have on talking Wolves and whatnot. So thank you to Zaps. Let's get it going, Voldy, with some Tater Tot Hot Take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
Alrighty, it's time for some Tater Tot Hot Take. We kind of, talked about it a little bit. Kirkochains, our guy.
Oh, yeah.
Our good friend, Kirkochains. Obviously, we kind of gave away what we kind of thought about this whole situation. There's been a lot of reports that Kirkcousins, even at the Combine, the Vikings said all the right things. And obviously, KOC interviewed with Rich Eisen and said, Kirk's earned the right to look at other suitors and things like that. So the tone of that, I think, kind of changed a little bit. Mike Florio, a lot of news regarding him as well. Saying like, Kirk's peeved with the Vikings, or I guess the Cousins family in general, is peeved with the Vikings for not, signing him to that deal, X, Y, and Z. They've been in Atlanta looking at houses, schools for the kids, and, everything like that. Not saying he's a liar. I'm not saying he's a liar at all. But I'll believe it when I see it next week. And that's what I'm going to put it. That's how I'm going to put this. And, I agree from the sentiment with Zaps about the, maybe having to start over with, bridge quarterback, bring in JJ McCarthy or Penix or whoever. My issue that I see money says Vikings country, let's ride. We didn't even mention Russell Wilson yet, so Seymour is already on the prowl with that. Well, I'll get to that in a second. But
Money, just worry about your Titans. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, no more Tannehill. So he's free agent. So he's out of there.
I got Will Levis. They're good.
Will Levis. So Malik Willis, I still think, is under contract there too. So there's a lot going on.
Flash in the pan. That's all he was.
Yeah, that's true. Shield, what do you make of all these rumors with Kirk? What has the percentage changed? How big has the percentage changed for you that Kirk's staying and Kirk going? What do you got?
Well, I can't remember the exact number where we were last week. In my due diligence say, I think we were about 65-35, him returning.
Yes, that is correct.
Him leaving. I think that's where we were. Now with these rumors coming out, him, obviously, the family checking out, schools, homes in Atlanta, one would think that would just be him doing his due diligence to make sure to evaluate all the options and make sure there's something set up in the possibility that there would be, an opportunity to him to go to the dirty South. This has really swayed me into a direction of now we're looking about, we'll go 75-25, him leaving versus him returning. So we've taken a dramatic shift in the Richter scale, if you will, of positive to negative. Well, I'm going 75% not returning to 25% returning, just because you hear these rumors and these reports. I would certainly love to be proved wrong in this sense of him just, evaluating everything. He wants the money. That's the big thing out of the whole deal. Will the Vikings give him the money? I don't know exactly. You throw in the fact that, obviously the injury, the number of years since he's been here to kind of really prove his worth overall. Has it worked? Mixed results on that. More people would say, no, it hasn't worked versus, yes, it has worked with the weapons and the scheme that they have. I honestly don't know whether to believe or not, but with, officially the season opening up, this next week with free agency and everything on March 11th, a key date, at least in my personal life as well. That is definitely something. Will he go out and sign the deal right away? is kind of the big thing as well. Will that happen right off the bat? Is he going to wait it out? Maybe give it a couple of weeks to, look at everything? Or if the rumors that we've seen as of late really kind of be the final steps in making a decision once the official season opens up, coming up here next week. Right now, I honestly don't know what to believe from a Viking standpoint as well. You've got a second year going into third year head coach and now going into third year front office with Mensa at the GM spot. You would think that they would like to kind of overhaul a little bit to get the guy that they want at quarterback. Obviously, Kirk has been good enough. I mean, 13-3 the first season with KOC. Then you get them back to 500 after starting off 0-4. Unfortunate Achilles injury. What happens beyond that when Kirk gets fully healthy? We already know it was going to be an MVP season for him when fully healthy, but we won't know is kind of the thing.
Yep.
But have the Vikings coaching staff and front office come to a point like, we need to overhaul. We need to get our guys in for our team that we want to build for the future and bring a Super Bowl to Minnesota. There's a lot of things still on the table, but I do not feel confident that any of it's going to go the way that we've been talking about here for the last few weeks.
So we've been talking about how, okay, they re-signed Kirk. He gave him the hometown
Right.
discount type of thing. We've talked.
He doesn't
about
want the
all
discount. He wants the
and
money.
apparently that's the case. But let's factor a couple other things into this too.
Yep.
Julie Cousins, his wife, he has a lot of
Julie.
family down there. Her family's down from there, and
God. Right.
you could factor in another instance of Kirk wanting to have a chance to win the big one, because obviously a lot of people look at Kirk Cousins and obviously the Kirk haters. That, well, he has never, he's only won one playoff game for the Vikings. He's only done X, Y, and Z. He can't win in prime time. He can't win in Monday night, Sunday night. Listen, if you were on the Washington Redskins at the time, or you're on the Vikings, defense during that time too, I'm not saying it's all on, what happened in Washington or Minnesota. Obviously, Kirk's had opportunities to, come through in those moments, and he has these past couple years. I think he has, and he's brought it to, another level. Now,
Right.
I'm still kind of in the camp of, listen, who are you going to get for these next couple years?
Right.
The Wilfs have made it known. Competitive rebuild. We want to be competitive. But maybe you have no choice now, because Kirk's looking at Atlanta. Okay, I don't have as many big wide receiver weapons as I do, and a tight end that I can trust. You have Hawkinson, we have JJ, we have Addison. Don't know if KJ's coming back. We'll see. But there's a lot of weapons as compared to Atlanta. Okay, Bijan Robinson, he's probably going to have a better season than he did last. Obviously, Arthur Smith out of there. But I personally think that he's looking at that and saying, well, they have a good defense. And look at the NFC South. I mean,
Wide open.
Yikes. It's wide open. They get into the playoffs. They get in the dance. I mean, we'll see what happens. But
Weird stuff happens.
Right. And the one thing that I think that has helped the Falcons in this sense, Arthur Blank, a.k.a. Blank Check, said, do whatever you need to do to get Kirk Cousins. So that's basically what the reports are, saying do what you need to do to get him.
The Blank family's sitting on a pile of money if you can get a hot dog, a soda, and a pretzel at a Falcons game for like $7 all together. Yeah. I mean, that they're going to be raking in the money and say, here's a checkbook, fill it out, whatever you want. Make sure add a couple of zeros from me to you. I mean, I can definitely see it happen. I don't want it to happen, but I mean, certainly
but
possibility.
I think that we're coming to that reality.
Yep.
And I think that's how Kirk's looking at it. From a money standpoint, hey, if they're offering more, then there you go. But so our plan of Kirk and then draft somebody, do what you can.
Right.
I think that is now becoming a myth, probably not going to happen. So, that being said, I do want to get to see more here. Malik Willis can just retire.
Fair enough.
What kind of clothes will Kirk's wife pick out for him to wear at his first Falcons press conference? Well, I believe Kirk had he had the Vikings tie, I think, when he came here. If I'm not mistaken, I'll have to look that up. But I think
Get him
she'll
dressed
go,
Get him dressed like Deion Sanders.
Yeah, there you go. Well, he's got grills
Uh-huh.
now too. I mean, shoot.
Chains and all. Get him
Right.
the big gold chains.
And the thing
all.
is I'm kind of wanting to root for him too. So I'm not gonna hate him if
That's
he
a
loses.
sad thing.
Leaves.
You want to, but you don't want it to happen. Is the
I
thing.
took a picture with him. He could be on this show. Who knows?
It could
Who
be.
knows? I
Only
still
does it
love
for friends and family though. Yeah.
Yep.
You like that? You like that?
Vikings need to go after Bo Nix.
Unleash the bow. All right.
I don't know. I'm not sold on him as much.
Out with the
I don't
first
know.
pick, I'll say that much.
Yeah, they might. Yeah, they probably would have to. They could wait till. Well, I don't know if they could wait till the second round, but some would say Kirk's toughest QB to face in the NFC South would be Derek Carr, and that's saying a lot. That's saying a lot.
Depends on whether or not he's trading time with Jameis Winston or not. So
Our guy, infamous Jameis, who, he might not come on the show.
Infamous Jameis.
We'll see. But
I know a guy who knows a guy who actually knows Jameis Winston. So
so you never know. It could happen.
we'll see.
So here's my percentage, and then we'll move on to ARA.
Yep.
So you said 75.
75-25, Kirk not returning to returning.
Okay.
Again, I want to be proven wrong. This is the one time of many times I'll say, prove me wrong, tell me I'm an idiot, call me soft for all those Lions fans out there and Chiefs fans.
Yeah.
Call me a soft ass again. I want to hear it. You
So-
too, Seymour. I want to hear it.
Yeah. So so I'm going to go 70-30. 70-30.
Okay.
I'm going to the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm still holding out a little hope, just because, Kirk could just be like, F it. I'm just going to go out there and, get it done. So, I don't know. We'll see, man. We might be doing a sad segment on Wednesday because
we very well could be.
the tampering starts
Tamper.
on Monday and goes through. They can't officially sign till Wednesday. So, we'll be talking about that. Seymour says Jimbo Fisher was never the same head coach when he lost infamous Jameis.
Nobody was.
Nobody was.
Who was?
8-8, right? 8-8, or 7-9.
Eight.
No, it was 7-9, wasn't it? Or yeah, with Jimbo Fisher or something like that.
Yep.
Good times. Good times. So, Voldy, I hate to tell the zoners, the Vikings fans, but it's not looking good. It's not looking
Hey, as
good.
long as we re-sign Justin Jefferson. You know what I'm saying?
That is a key. Now, real quick, they have to, and I think they will. They're not stupid. You can't let go of a generational talent like Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
But if you don't sign Kirk, can you re-sign Daniil now that you have you have some money to spend a little
Right.
bit? Do you go out and get some guys? I mean, we had a backup plan. We're going to do infinity rankings. I listed all the free agents that I think that they could target, and maybe some of them probably not, but maybe I'll reveal that this week or something like that. But that's another thing to factor in. But I expect them to go after one of those top quarterbacks in the NFL draft if Kirk does not come back. So think about it like that. We will hope and pray that it's not the case for Kirko, but it is what it is. So Voldy, we did talk with Alex about the ant situation, gave our thoughts on that. So we're just going to jump in to ARA. We've got some good ARAs tonight, especially with the Chargers cutting one Erickendricks, former Viking. Johnny Manziel supports Reggiebush in the Heisman debacle. Lots to talk about there. And then we're going to talk about Broncos country goodbye with Russ Wilson. And then trevorbauer still looking for an MLB team to be on. So Seymour says, we going to get to Anthony Edwards forgetting what time the tip-off was for an NBA game? Well, we just had Zappa on. We just talked about it. So, yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, Seymour.
Yeah, so check it out at the beginning. We got thoughts on that too. So, all right. Rewind. So, with that being said, let's get it going. What's up? Observed or approved?
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, it is time for Absurd or Approved. So, Voldy, why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
Well, and a team that is also looking to shed some dead weight, the Los Angeles Chargers, of course, have made the move to release linebacker Erickendricks from the squad, thus saving $6.75 million in cap space, with new head coach Jim Harbaugh and, of course, general manager Joe Horitz taking the helm of the squad to mold the team into the direction that they want to go forward as well, with more players making more money for the upcoming season. Of course, we know that Kendricks, former Vikings legend, was, of course, signed to a 2-year deal with the Chargers last offseason as well, but will be hitting the open market. Of course, we'll be getting, he was due for a roster bonus on the third day of the new league year, which was going to be next week on the 15th, but will save a little bit of money, will the Chargers as well. Now with Kendricks out of the fold in, of course, the likes of LA, is it a possibility here? Of course, would and should, absurd or approved, should the Vikings bring back Erickendricks all the way that Anthony Barr was brought back this past season?
Well, here's what I think, and this isn't necessarily, you know, a bad thing that I'm saying this, but you know, I just think he's lost a step. And I think, especially with that defense that they had last year, they were the worst. I mean, they were one of the worst defenses in the league last year. And especially with a defensive head coach, you'd think that they'd figure that out. The only plus was that they had Khalil Mack and he had a bunch of sacks and whatnot. But I don't think so. And I think it's absurd. Now, I will say this. I think they would take a look, but you have Ivan Pace, who's coming off one of, you know, a great rookie season. Jordan Hicks was on fire for those past few games before he got hurt and almost lost his leg, for goodness sake. So yep. I'm kind of straying away from Kendricks, and I think, you know, we saw, and was it when in the Ed Donatel defense and all that, he's, you know, but you notice that he was struggling to keep up with, you know, backs and whatnot, and you know, he didn't look the same like he was when he was younger and whatnot. And I love Erickendricks. I would like to be proven wrong in that sentiment. But I wouldn't mind if Coach Flo and, you know, O'Connell just kind of said, you know, let's just take a look, see where he's at. If he's a good scheme fit, we'll put him in there. So that's another thing to factor in. But I think it's absurd. I don't think they should entertain it. But I think you can take a look at it, and, you know, I could be proven wrong. That's just me. But if you add more depth, cool. But, you know, you mentioned Barr. I don't even remember him doing anything that was really good in any of the games when we got him back. But, you know, obviously cool having him back. But, yeah, I think it's absurd. I think he needs a better fit. That's what I think. But what do you think, Voldy?
I mean, he did finish second on the team last year with 117 tackles, so maybe losing a step given the fact that, you know, his long tenure with Minnesota didn't exactly go the way that he probably wanted with trying to bring a championship or not. But that was a defense that got roughed up a lot. That is for certain with the Chargers too. I can understand from a financial standpoint of getting him cut as well. But I mean, honestly, having Kendricks back in the fold, I mean, yes, he is going to be a low man on the depth chart in many respects. But, you know, we kind of seen how things kind of really ran for a linebacker standpoint with B-Flow as well in that defense, that things have really taken stride. I mean, you could certainly do your due diligence and take a look and see where he's at, if you would be willing to come back or not. I don't see why he wouldn't be, but I don't think it would be an overall good idea, especially with kind of the development path that we've gotten with the linebacking core as well. Like you mentioned with Pace, who just kind of came out of nowhere this year. How Daniels really kind of blossomed, of course, from a stand-up point as well, but obviously getting the rush off the outside too. I don't think it would be a good idea, but I would certainly entertain the idea. So
I would. I mean, I'd take a look, see if there's anything that, you know, could work with that. But he'd love to come back. I'd love to have him back. So we'll see. But all right. Or I thought we had someone chiming in. But anyway, next one, Voldy.
Back to our regularly scheduled programming of America's favorite game show. What's Johnny Manziel doing? It's an update, of course, saying that Johnny Manziel said on his X account, the platform formerly known as Twitter, saying that he will be not attending the annual Heisman Trophy ceremony until the NCAA returns former USC running back Reggiebush's trophy, which was stripped away from him following NCAA sanctions as well. Of course, this coming off the fact that he did accept money, house, car as well from his time at USC for that, in the hopes that he would sign with a certain agent while he was still attending college, the pre-NIL era. Of course, the stranglehold that USC football had on the college football landscape in the mid-aughts. This always coming to light in recent years, of course, with the development of NIL and now the whole pay-to-play sort of standpoint as well. Now we're starting to see all those guys that did get money when they were in college and be punished for it and their awards taken away. Now we're starting to see a little bit more of them come out of the woodwork and say, well, if they're doing this, then how come I can't get back which I was rightfully given to me back in time as well? Of course, the sanctions that were delivered 13 years ago, 2010 is when these sanctions did come down, that Reggie Bush should be dissociated from USC, including a 2-year postseason ban for the school, which has gone since away, vacated 14 victories, including the 2004 BCS National Championship, 30 scholarships lost. Of course, the dissociation period did end in June of 2020. So now we're back into the game as well. But is it absurd or approved that should the Heisman Committee reinstate Reggie Bush's Heisman Trophy and bring him back to the ceremony to bring him back as a make of amends here, to, you know, kind of bring everything back together?
Well, since it's been taking this long, it doesn't surprise me because of the stupid NCAA. But right. I think I think they need to reinstate Reggie Bush's trophy as soon as humanly possible. But here's the reality of the situation. They're going to do what they damn well just want to do anyway. So I don't, unless you have a movement of players, or former players, I should say, or committee members or whoever, coaches, saying, we will not attend until you give Reggie Bush his Heisman back. But
right,
I agree with Johnny Manziel, and that's a weird thing to say. I actually agree with one Johnny Manziel, because you want to make amends to a player that was really good and at a time where USC was dominant, man. You had Reggie, you had Wendell White, you had Matt Leinart, you had a lot of great players on that team. Offensively, Mike Williams, another name being mentioned there. So this is kind of, it's like, oh, he accepted money on. Look, It's done. It's over. Give him his Heisman back because he earned it. He absolutely earned it. So you're going to blame a guy for taking just a little money and actually being one of the top, college football players at that time. Look, get over it. Give it back to him because he deserves it. So I think it's absurd that they won't change their minds. I don't know unless people start making a movement and things like that. That's when you can force them. If you can force the NCAA to do that, then you'll be in good shape. But you need more people to keep talking about it and whatnot so he can get it back. So he deserves it, and I think it's absurd that they probably won't do it, but we'll see. Voldy, what do you think?
I look at it here from the standpoint, I mean, the Heisman Trust that does run, obviously, the Heisman Trophy and the committee as well, that they have come out and even said, too, that they would look forward to welcoming back to the Heisman family if the NCAA opted to reinstatement. But, of course, the NCAA has sat on their hands long enough and does not look like that they will be doing it anytime soon, which is unfortunate because, I mean, at the end of the day, you can't unring that bell. You can't just unwin a Heisman Trophy. You just can't unwin those games. You just can't unwin a national championship. It's there. We can go back. We could put on the tape right now. We could watch Trojan War with the ESPN 30 for 30. I mean, I listened to the games with names with Matt Leinart and Julian Edelman on the Push Push game as well. I mean, that's talking about all that too. I mean, certainly they should definitely welcome him back with open arms. I don't even think you need to wait for the NCAA. I think the Heisman Trust should draw a line in the sand, put their dick out on the table, say, hey, we're here. We got Reggie Bush. We're welcoming him back. Your move, NCAA, and bring the Heisman back with him as well. I mean, I'm sure it's in storage somewhere that he can probably pull it out, or the Heisman committee could just make a new one and put a 2005 placard for Reggie Bush and have him back out on the floor with him as well. Make a stance and make it happen, because obviously we all know kids in college now, they're making their money. Reggie Bush, I don't want to say he paved the way, but he was doing it. Johnny Manziel was doing it. Everybody was doing it. Those two just so happen to be the ones that get caught at a more lucrative time as well, where everybody was just trying to look for an edge. I think absolutely. I think they need to bring him back as a decisive stance to say, we're okay. Bygones be bygones, and here we are, Reggie Bush, one of the greatest college players to ever step out on the field in the 21st century, if not, certainly all time as well.
Good points. Good points all around. All right, next one, Voldy.
Oh, we head back to the world of the NFL as the Denver Broncos have informed 9-time Pro Bowl quarterback Russell Wilson that they plan to release him to end a 2-season run with the squad that certainly did not have its own ups, mostly downs to say the least, when they start the new year coming up on March 13th at 4 p.m. Eastern. The Denver Broncos will release Russell Wilson, as we talked about last week, whether or not he was going to make the team through training camp. Well, we already answered that question in one way or another. But given the track record of Russell Wilson at his time in Denver and the last couple of seasons he had prior with Seattle, is it absurd or prove? Will Russell Wilson find his way onto a roster this season as a starter?
Not as a Viking.
Yep. Hope not.
I hope not. But here's what people are saying. And, there's truth to this. And I just think there's a couple factors. One, the Broncos are paying the last of his, what he was supposed to be paid. So that's covered.
Yep.
All the Vikings and or other teams have to do is pay 11. Or not 11. I'm sorry. $1 million or something like that. It's not even. It doesn't affect your cap at all. Now then they're like, well, you bring if you're the Vikings, you bring in Russell Wilson and then you draft somebody. I mean, you don't bring in Russell Wilson and you don't draft someone. That would be absolutely absurd in my unfathomable. Yeah. But I don't think it's worth it because I think the ego of Russell Wilson, and I used to be very pro Russell Wilson until
Absolutely.
things kind of went down in Seattle, and apparently he's wanting guys out. He's the one that makes the decisions apparently in Seattle, but then they wanted to get rid of him. They trade him to the Broncos. Nathaniel Hackett comes in, and basically crap hits the fan, and it doesn't go well. Him and Sean Payton obviously don't like each other, don't get along with one another, two different personalities. I mean, they both have big egos, and I think that's the issue with Russell Wilson is he's got to get rid of that ego of it's all about Russ, because it's not all about Russ. It is about the team aspect of this, and that's why his time in Denver was so bad. They benched him, for goodness sake. They're like, well, because of your injury designation, we're trying. Look, no. Who gives a damn about that? You guys, the Broncos said, screw this, we're done. Like, we don't like this anymore. And granted, I still think he should have played, during that time because I'm sorry, but Jared Stidham, yikes. I mean, just not good. But Russell Wilson being a starter this season, I think so. I think there's going to be a team that's going to take that and say, you know what, screw it. We'll just pay, only $1 million or $2 million or whatever it is and, write it out and see what happens. But I'll give it my stamp of approval. I think there is going to be a team because here the dominoes have to fall, right? Are the Bears going to trade Fields? That's one domino that might fall here soon. Or Kirk signs with Atlanta, then everything starts falling into place and people start making more moves. So you got to factor that in as well. Yes, he will be a starter. Hopefully not for our Minnesota Vikings because I just don't think he would be well received here either. So just saying. Voldy, what do you think?
I mean, I could certainly see him make his way onto a roster because of the fact the Broncos are still paying his contract regardless. I mean, $85 million in dead money to
That's
the
insane.
to the Broncos right there. It's one of those. The only real risk you have is a roster spot with Russell Wilson, but the upside is he could be a quarterback that take you to the dance. I mean, he gets you the playoffs. He could win you a division. He could do a lot of things. He could come up with cringe-worthy memes out of his culture in the last couple of years, and obviously the Denver Broncos in his time. There's plenty of teams out there looking for a quarterback. There's plenty of teams looking for a backup, if not a guy to compete with a starting quarterback that's been struggling for a couple of years. Maybe Vegas, maybe the Patriots, maybe Atlanta. I hear they're looking for a starting quarterback. Hey, maybe even Chicago as well. Draft a new guy, bring in Russell Wilson, teach him the in and outs, maybe pull a Brian Hoyer and Johnny Manziel. Well, I'm going to do everything I can to get a starting job while Johnny Manziel can go sit here and suck it for all I care. Who knows? Who knows? I'm going to say, yes, he will find his way onto a roster. Will he be a starter? Purely by dumb luck, I will say he will be a starter this year. So it's got my stamp of approval.
Well, it doesn't. It wouldn't surprise me if he, like you said, it's just a roster spot now. And sorry, Sierra, but wherever you guys are going to go now, it's going to be maybe a little bit colder than Denver. So
She'll be fine.
We'll see. Yeah, she'll be fine. Exactly. Last one, Voldy.
Well, of course, with spring training in full swing here, one surprising player that is still on the free agent market and is certainly no slouch when it comes to prowess on the mound, Trevorbauer, the former Cy Young Award winner, of course, being held out of Major League Baseball since 2021 after a successful season in the NPBL, that's the Japanese Nippon Professional Baseball League. Spent 2023 over there, that being Trevorbauer, who is looking to make his way back onto the major leagues into a roster as well. But at this point, he's willing more to prove himself for a contract as opposed to setting a hard number for his time in uniform, as he did take to social media a few weeks ago saying that he would be looking at potential suitors as well, but he would prefer a contract with all incentives, if not with an incentive-based contract as well. If he reached certain amount of innings, if he would go to, looking at, all the performance-based incentives that go along with it, make the major league minimum. He wants to prove himself still worthy of being on a major league roster. Of course, him being out of Major League Baseball since 2021 with the allegations of a sexual assault incident, thus getting cleared out of that as well. Most recently, before the start of the new year, too, case being dropped against him. Now an opportunity for him to find a way onto roster. Maybe not, if not this point during the season. He's most likely going to be heading back to Japan as well. But is it absurd or approved? Should Trevorbauer get another shot in the MLB for this upcoming season?
Yes, and a team that could use some pitching is the Minnesota Twins. And
bingo.
Look, I'm wearing the hat. I'm past the point of having any remorse for the Minnesota Twins.
Yep.
Do they have some good players in that pitch with the starting pitching? Yeah, Pablo Lopez, man. Love Pablo Lopez. He was fantastic this past year. Joe Ryan, I think there's some moment. He's had his moments and whatnot. Chris Paddock coming back, I think, could help a little bit. The big loss was Sonny Gray. And the fact that the Twins weren't willing to give him the money that they should be giving him because of those damn poll ads being cheap, and we all know the deal there. But
he's hurt now too, so I think the Twins dodged a bullet with Sonny Gray. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. I did hear that as well. So maybe they did. Maybe they saw something we didn't. But granted, look, don't be cowards. Don't be cowards, because this whole time, this offseason, the Twins have been cowards because, we can't shell out all this money, the payroll. There's no salary cap. Just shut up. You guys, the poll ads are on the Forbes list. You have money. You have money. You need to spend it. You need to use it on your team that you own. Go out and get the pitcher that you need and make that. It's like, we made a splash with Correa. We made a splash with all these other guys. Look,
still not
you
pitching.
need to make more. It doesn't matter. You need to make more moves. I mean, granted, you look at this division, yeah, they can, they'll probably win the division. I mean, Cleveland's probably the next team that's behind them, but I think they're going to get well ahead of Cleveland. Look, if you want a chance, if you want to be a team that wants to win it all, go out and get a guy. If he sucks, then get rid of him. Fine. I don't care. If Trevorbauer sucks, then fine, get rid of him. Just give him a chance just to see if he can help the starting pitching. Not saying that's the biggest need, because there's some good guys on there. The more pitchers you have that can be effective, the more success I think that they could have this season. So don't be cowards. Go out and get it. But I think he will get a shot. I think there will be a team that'll come out and do that. If it's the Twins, probably not. But I think there will be a team that'll be willing to go out and get him, since all that's been cleared up with the case and whatnot. So, stamp of approval. Voldy, what do you think?
I think there will definitely be a team to go out there and at least give him a decent enough look. He put up some decent numbers while in Japan as well, to at least return to form, at least be able to competitively pitch at a time where obviously there was a lot going on off the field as well. He is still on the younger side of his career too. When he broke into the league and everything, the wacky warm-up that he had too, thrown from foul pole to foul pole and all the weird stretches he did. I don't want to say he's gone away from that, but he's certainly calmed the hell down. That's for damn sure in that regard too. I certainly think he is still worthy of playing on a major league roster too. Now, if the Twins would have gone and made a move maybe last year and gone for him, I would have been over the moon about it. With this younger rotation that we have coming in, like Bailey Ober, with Chris Paddock, I'm excited to see what Chris Paddock can do here this season, if and when fully healthy too, to contribute to the starting rotation. I think it's going to be a godsend, or at least a good enough opportunity for him to go out and eat some innings. I certainly see it on the other side that Trevorbauer is definitely a person that you can go out and at least get something out of him too.
Yeah.
Would the Twins go and make a move? Like, I think I see from the standpoint of why teams aren't signing him, it's going to be a PR nightmare. But the Twins, I feel like they don't give a crap about PR because, who cares, honestly? If the guy can pitch and he can put some butts in the seats, I feel like people would come to games, even boo him. Hey, that's still tickets sold. That's money at the concession stand. It's all great here, there. Exactly. They booed Correa, and it worked perfectly in that regard too. I think he's definitely worth it. It's got my stamp of approval. He is definitely worthy of another shot in the major leagues.
Yep. Twins, don't be cowards. That's all I gotta say.
Don't be
cowards. All right. Great job with ARA this week, Voldy, as always.
Thanks, sir.
And before we move on, I did have an omission and it probably should have clarified. When I meant that the Vikings haven't really had a mobile quarterback, I meant in recent years, not from back. Like, Joe Webb, Dante, Joe Webb, Tavares, I mean, they've had that, but they haven't had one in a long time because of, kirkcochains and, Case Keenum. Yeah, I mean, he was mobile. Yeah,
No.
I'd say so.
No,
But
not really.
not like, you know what I mean? Not like run first. But,
Not-
I mean,
yeah.
he'd be, he could get away from the rush and stuff. But I will clarify real quick that. So, with that being said, we got some great Shield shout-outs to get to, including a former Twin. And, again, we'll give you more. We'll give you more on that and whatnot. So let's get it going with some Shield shout-outs.
And it's time for Shield shoutouts. Ka-shing, ka-shing!
Well, if something doesn't work, we might as well go back to our roots, Voldy. We go back to our roots with Shield shoutouts. So, Shield, who you shouting out tonight?
Well, sadly, we got to start off Shield shoutouts with the unfortunate passing former NFL insider Chrismortenson, who did ultimately lose his life, of course, with battling. Of course, he did battle through cancer,
Right.
and it's stepping away from ESPN in the previous season to focus on, his health, family, faith as well for him. He sadly did succumb to, the end of his life earlier this week as well. Sadly, he will be missed, of course, by friends, family, colleagues, and, of course, those that tuned in every Sunday morning to Sunday NFL Countdown, Monday Night Countdown as well. Always looking at the Mort Report, him and Shefty back and forth on the latest developments and all of that. Of course, draft talk as well during his time with the NFL Draft with ESPN. Sadly, rest in peace to Chris Mortensen. But we do have to wish a happy retirement to former Twins legend, the 2015 AL MVP, the bringer of rain, Josh Donaldson. He announced his retirement from Major League Baseball, spanning his time, of course, Toronto. Looks like he was with Atlanta, the Twins, even finishing out with the Yankees as well. Best of luck to him. My lasting memory of Josh Donaldson in a Twins uniform comes at two moments as well. Actually, three moments, if you will. One was being held off the Twins roster in the postseason during the COVID-stricken era time as well for him, wearing the number 24, then switching the number 20 after Eddie Rosario decided to switch sides as well, signing with a different team. And then also when he hit that home run in Chicago, and as he's crossing home plate, wipes dirt over home plate, then getting thrown out. And then the start of, I think it was either last season or the season before, where he hit like a double in the first game against Milwaukee, ended up pulling his hamstring, like rounding first going into second. So a very banged up and injury prone Josh Donaldson. best of luck in his retirement and always swinging for the fences with the bringer of rain. But also with this week and weekend coming up as well, do have to wish a couple of happy early birthdays, including my soon-to-be 3-year-old son, KASE Paul James. He will be turning 3. And consultant Mrs. SARA ANN TEWS VOLD. She'll be having and celebrating a birthday on Monday, March 11th as well. So happy early birthdays, which will be a very crazy and wacky time here coming up into the weekend and next week. That will do it for Shield Shoutouts this week.
Well, yes, happy early birthdays to KASE and our creative consultant, Mrs. SARA ANN TEWS VOLD. We couldn't do it without them, and obviously, congratulations to Josh Donaldson. I wish we got Josh Donaldson a little bit earlier, because you know how the Twins do. They get guys 5 years after their prime. You know the deal. Voldy said it multiple times. And
Always.
then Chrismortenson. I mean, the Mort Report. Everything. That was my childhood. Each Sunday. Mort is a legend, and it sucks. And Adam Schefter had a really nice tribute to him too. So shout out to Shefty with that and many others. So with that being said,
Shield Shoutouts.
I did that on purpose because I have no idea what happened.
What happened? Yeah, me neither.
With the one I hit it before. But we had the old audio of the Shield Shoutouts, so I was glad that we could throw that in there too. So great job with Shield Shoutouts, as always, Voldy. And
thanks, sir.
You guys know the deal. We talked about with Zaps. We got merch, people. We got fantastic merch. We got the sweatpants. We got the shirts. Yeah. You guys got the stickers, the hats. What? And the mugs, the quarter zips, the tumblers. I think I already said that. But anyway, we got plenty of those for you if you want them. The thing is we can use these for giveaways too. So just know that you never know what's going to pop up coming up here as well. So let us know. We'll get you that, Venmo, the whole deal. Make sure you check out W2 Performance. Will Rattel, our guy at www.w2performance.com. Shout out to National Fleet Graphic, Crown Rental, Tyler Knutson with his new podcast. Make sure you check his stuff out. And then make sure you check out the Victorias, P-O-D, with Tyler Herman, Jack Vickers. They're doing some fantasy football stuff. They're getting ready for the season. And especially with free agency and the draft, there's going to be a lot of analysis to be put in there. Shout out to TLS Performance, Troy Stoudemire Jr., our guy. Roll the boat, Skyuma, go Gophers. Popcorn Bucket List, make sure to check them out. Nick Dahlhoff, Ryan Mybert, Rhino, our guy. Omni Entertainment, they've got all the reviews, movie reviews, things like that, recommendations. Make sure to check those guys out as well. And before I forget, Breaking Into the League with Sam Gabrielli, Ryan Martin is back. Make sure you check out everything that they got with their NHL podcast, Spotify, the whole deal. So we got to get Gabs on. I miss Gabs. We got to get him on. He's in Kentucky doing the weather.
Yeehaw.
Yeah, in Kentucky. Yeehaw. So with that being said, thank you to Alex Zappa, our guy. Always a pleasure. Getting the inside track on what's going on with Valley, what's going on with the Wolves, the whole kit and caboodle. So we'll probably have him on soon again once the playoffs get going. And he'll have more, he'll have more insight. We'll know what we have with that. Before we end the show, too, I almost forgot. Our alma mater, Voldy, they are going to be ready for Selection Sunday. They're going to be ready to go. Go Mustangs. The Stampede is on the move. The whole deal. Go Mustangs. We love Coach Bigler and the guys there. Let's get it done. Get it going. And shout out to the women's basketball. They had a great run. recently. So shouts out to them as well.
Baseball team's been playing pretty good down in Arizona. I think they had a 4-game win streak last time I checked.
Let's go.
So Coach Ish and the squad back at 500. So looking to make some moves down there in AZ. So here you go.
Let's go. So go Mustangs. We love our Mustangs, and we will always rep the Mustangs. As you can see, I am a Southwest alumni, so
I should have got one of those.
Hey, you still have another chance to get one of them. I believe they will have it. Correct me if I'm wrong from the alumni office, but I think there are more, I believe. So, with that being said, as always, folks, keep in the zone.
Holla!
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.